All right, I wanted to give you guys a few ideas to consider when building a woodshed. So first off, the location. Obviously, in the dead of winter, you don't want to be grabbing your logs from a quarter mile away. So you want it somewhat near your cabin, right? So unfortunately, the cabin's on the only flat spot nearby here. Any other flat building sites I've got are further away. So this just had to be on a sloped area, but that's okay. That's still workable. Just use these concrete footings and then built off of there and then made it level. The structure itself, as you can see, the construction is extremely simple. Nothing to it. And as you can see, there's no roof sheathing up there, so that saves a lot on weight. It's just the metal roof. And we barely get any snow here, so I don't have to worry about a lot of weight piling up on there. If you live somewhere that does get a ton of snow, you may want to consider that on how you design the roof. But I only needed to put a small, it's like a inch and a half pitch to it. And if it there's a little bit of condensation that drips from underneath here down onto the logs, that's no big deal. That doesn't matter. The main purpose is basically just to keep the logs out of the rain and then get air passage to them. So that's why I didn't put any covering walls on the outside, because you want some airflow to get moving through there. And also because I've seen people who built ones that were, say, three-sided, and the problem with that is then they bury the wood way back in there, and then 10 years later it's still sitting back there and rotting. So I wanted a design where I can walk completely around it and be able to reach and grab logs from anywhere around it. So just simple. I wanted to go as cheap as possible on this. Today's economy, I mean, you don't want to be spending a fortune on something simple like a woodshed shelter. If I had materials on hand, I would have tried to do it even cheaper than this. But I did want it sturdy enough that even in a bad storm, it's going to hold up. And it ended up being actually a lot sturdier than I anticipated it being. So it's plenty beefy enough. If you live somewhere where there's building restrictions on these kinds of structures, well, you kind of just identified your biggest issue right there then, didn't you? And then the actual, I don't know what you call these, holders or cradles or whatever, I just cut these. So these end boards here are 14 inches long, and then just cut these to the length that I needed for that would fit in here. They ended up being about 5.5 feet long. That was all I can fit in here. If you wanted to, you can make it 8 feet long, full 8-foot boards. But in that case, then I would also put another cinder block in the middle there just to help with that suspended load. But yeah, just set them on those cinder blocks. And these here, I mean, I just cut these down to 4 feet, and then you just stick it down in the hole, the cinder block, and it holds in place. Then as you start stacking the wood up there, it's just going to hold those boards in place for you. And this distance here, between the two boards ends up being 11 inches. And I believe my wood stove will take a maximum 23-inch log. So if I aim to cut my logs to 16 inches, that gives me 5 inches of tolerance, either too small before they fall through there or too big to fit in my stove. So I'll just aim for 16-inch logs and stack them. That means I can stack 2 rows on that side and 2 rows on that side. Should be plenty for this climate. I mean, in this warm climate, I don't burn a ton of wood in the winter. You know, it's really just a short period of time that you even need heating here. So I'm guessing this will probably be enough. If it ends up not being enough wood and I want more storage, well, I'll just build another one of these. I actually prefer that way, having multiple smaller structures rather than, I know humans just like to just big impressive structures, but you know, if you got multiple ones, if one burns down or one gets knocked down in bad storm or whatever, you still got another one, so you're not at a complete loss. So I kind of like hedging my bets and spreading my structures out a little bit. So up comes the actual hard work now of filling these in. Yeah, it's been hitting 100 degrees every day for the last 5 or 6 days, so I'm looking forward to a little break in that. I've only been able to work, a few hours a day before I just kind of succumbed to it and got a rest. But still was able to get this done. And I love these. I'm putting a metal roof on every single structure I got because it allows me to collect rainwater. So I will uh, just hang a gutter on the exterior of that fascia board there. So the metal roof I had hung off an inch and a half to inch and 3/4 overhang, so that when the gutter's hung, the water will run off of it straight into the gutter, and then the gutter run down to a water collection bin. The more water you can collect, the better. So yeah, this is what it's about. These kinds of structures. I mean, it's simple, but it gets the job done, and that's what you need.